Good morning, and welcome to the Modern Agora, our weekly forum for critical debate. Today, we delve into a pressing societal question. Is it the government's duty to provide affordable housing for all citizens? It's a topic that touches upon economics, social justice, and the very role of the state in our lives. Arguing for comprehensive government responsibility, we have Sarah Miller, a distinguished social policy analyst, and presenting the case for market-oriented solutions and targeted support, we welcome David Walker, a respected urban economist. Each will present opening statements, followed by rebuttals and a moderated discussion before concluding remarks. Sarah, please begin.
Thank you, Alex. I firmly believe that access to safe, secure, and affordable housing is not merely a desirable commodity, but a fundamental human right. Consequently, ensuring this right is a core responsibility of any just government. It is a moral imperative we cannot ignore. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates a direct link between stable housing and improved societal outcomes. When people have a secure place to call home, their health improves, children perform better in school, and adults find it easier to secure and maintain employment. This stability forms the bedrock of thriving communities. Governments are instituted to protect their citizens, particularly the most vulnerable, and ensuring basic needs like shelter fall squarely within this protective mandate. Some may point to the costs, but I argue that providing affordable housing is an investment that yields significant long-term economic benefits. Think of the reduced strain on emergency services, healthcare systems, and the criminal justice system when homelessness and housing instability decline. These savings often outweigh the initial outlay. Furthermore, safer communities fostered by reduced homelessness contribute positively to the overall economic environment. The unvarnished truth is that the private market, driven by profit motives, has consistently failed to adequately provide for everyone, especially low-income individuals, families, and those with unique needs. This isn't a criticism of the market itself, but an acknowledgement of its inherent limitations in addressing universal basic needs. Therefore, government intervention is not just justified, but essential to correct this market failure and uphold human dignity.
Thank you, Alex and Sarah. I agree wholeheartedly that affordable housing is crucial for individual well-being and societal health. No one disputes the importance of a safe place to live. However, I contend that direct government provision of housing, top for all, is neither the most effective nor the most efficient solution to achieve this shared goal. My primary concern revolves around economic efficiency. Large-scale government housing projects are notoriously expensive to build and maintain. They often become mired in bureaucracy, leading to significant delays and potential misallocation of taxpayer resources. We must ask if this is the best use of public funds when other, more flexible mechanisms might yield better results for more people. Moreover, extensive government intervention can inadvertently stifle private sector innovation in housing. If private developers cannot compete with subsidized government housing, or if the market becomes overly regulated, the overall supply of new housing can shrink, paradoxically worsening affordability in the long run. This market distortion is a serious risk. I also believe we must emphasize individual responsibility and choice. The aim should be to empower people to afford their own housing through economic growth, job creation, and targeted support, rather than direct provision which can limit an individual's choice of location, housing type, and community. Instead of universal provision, I advocate for a multi-pronged approach. Reforming restrictive zoning laws that artificially limit housing supply, offering tax incentives for developers to build affordable units, and providing well-designed rent subsidies or housing vouchers directly to those who need them most. These policies can harness the efficiency of the market while ensuring a safety net for the vulnerable, offering a more sustainable and adaptable path to housing affordability.
David raises points about market efficiency, but we cannot ignore the persistent reality. History is replete with examples where the unfettered market has failed to prevent widespread homelessness and acute housing insecurity, even during periods of economic growth. Private development, by its very nature, caters to segments of the population that can afford market rates, often neglecting those at the lower end of the income spectrum. This isn't a new phenomenon, it's a consistent pattern. Regarding cost concerns, framing affordable housing solely as an expense is a narrow view. It is, as I stated, an investment. The societal costs of *not providing adequate housing are immense. Consider the increased burden on our public health systems treating illnesses exacerbated by poor living conditions, the additional policing required in areas with high rates of homelessness, and the lost productivity from an unstable workforce. These are tangible costs borne by all taxpayers. Furthermore, while targeted subsidies and vouchers, which David champions, can be part of the solution, they are often insufficient on their own, especially in markets where the overall housing supply is critically inadequate or prohibitively expensive. Vouchers are of little use if there are no affordable units available to rent. We need a strategy that increases the supply of genuinely affordable homes, and that often requires direct government involvement or significant public-private partnerships with strong public oversight.
Sarah, your emphasis on housing as a human right is compelling, and I don't disagree with the moral sentiment. However, the crucial distinction lies in how we interpret that right in terms of government obligation. Does it necessitate direct government provision of a physical house for every individual, or does it mean the government has a duty to ensure dimeings to affordable options and the insecure housing? I lean towards the latter. You attribute market failures solely to its inherent nature, but I would argue that many such failures are, in fact, exacerbated or even caused by existing, often well-intentioned, government regulations. Restrictive zoning ordinances, for example, artificially inflate land prices and limit the types of housing that can be built, directly impacting supply and affordability. If we were to streamline these regulations and encourage diverse housing development, the market could respond more effectively to demand across various income levels. We need to remove barriers, not just add new layers of intervention. And while I acknowledge your point about the societal costs of inaction, we must also be realistic about the risks inherent in large-scale public housing initiatives. History, unfortunately, also shows us examples of such projects leading to concentrations of poverty, social segregation, and the creation of low-quality housing estates that are difficult and costly to manage and maintain effectively. Ensuring quality and avoiding these pitfalls requires exceptional, long-term management, which is not always a consistent strength of government agencies. A more decentralized, market-engaged approach might mitigate these risks.
Sarah, David highlighted concerns about the efficiency of direct government provision. What specific models or safeguards would you propose to ensure quality and avoid the pitfalls of past public housing initiatives?
Modern approaches involve mixed-income developments to avoid segregation, high design standards, and resident management models. Partnerships with nonprofits and strong independent oversight are also key to ensuring accountability and quality. The focus must be on community integration and long-term sustainability, not just basic shelter.
David, Sarah argues market solutions can neglect the most vulnerable. Without a direct government role in building, how can we guarantee housing for those with no income or severe disabilities?
For those genuinely unable to access the market, direct support is vital. This means permanent supportive housing, often managed by specialized nonprofits with government funding, offering necessary wraparound services. It's about highly targeted, compassionate solutions for specific needs, distinct from universal provision.
A question for both. What specific roles should local versus national government play in addressing housing affordability? How should responsibility be shared?
National government should provide the framework, funding, and standards. Local government should implement programs tailored to community needs, managing development, and ensuring local relevance.
National government can fund targeted aid like vouchers. However, local authorities must lead on zoning reform, as land use is inherently local. Prescriptive national building mandates could hinder progress
Sarah, considering the potential impact on taxpayers if the government significantly expands housing provision, how would you justify the increased public expenditure?
It's an investment, not just an expense. The long-term savings in healthcare, social services, and justice, plus increased economic stability, outweigh initial costs. It's about societal priorities.
And David, despite your preference for market solutions, is there any scenario where direct government building of housing on a significant scale becomes justified?
Perhaps in extreme cases, like post-natural disaster recovery or in exceptionally remote areas with no market incentive. However, these should be rare exceptions, not the standard policy approach.
To conclude, I reiterate my firm belief. Ensuring access to affordable housing is a fundamental moral and societal duty of governments. It's the bedrock for individual stability and community well-being. The benefits are extensive. Improved public health, enhanced educational opportunities, greater economic productivity, and safer communities. These are not small gains. They are transformative. Market forces alone, while important, cannot adequately address the needs of all, particularly the most vulnerable. Proactive, strategic public investment is therefore essential and justified. A nation that houses its people is a stronger, more just, and more prosperous nation. Let us commit to making this a reality for everyone.
To summarize, I advocate for smart, sustainable housing solutions that empower individuals and utilize market strengths, while ensuring a robust safety net for those in genuine need. Direct, large-scale government provision carries risks of inefficiency, high costs, and market distortion, potentially limiting choice and overall housing supply. These are serious considerations. A more effective strategy includes regulatory reform, especially in zoning, targeted subsidies, and incentives for private innovation in affordable housing. This multi-pronged approach is key. Let's pursue affordable housing through policies that expand opportunity and choice, fostering a dynamic housing market, rather than relying chiefly on state control for provision.
Thank you, Sarah Miller and David Walker, for an exceptionally insightful and thought-provoking discussion on this complex issue. Your distinct perspectives have certainly illuminated the nuances involved. The core tension clearly lies in defining the extent and nature of government responsibility versus the efficacy of market-based strategies and carefully targeted support systems. There are no easy answers, but today's debate has provided much food for thought for our audience. We encourage everyone to continue considering these critical questions about how we can best ensure that all members of our society have access to safe and affordable housing. Thank you for joining us on the Modern Agora.